NASCAR finds Carson Hocevar, Chevy is officially getting a new body for 2026, and Richard Childress Racing responds to recent rumors. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, presented by Tableau TV. Pay once, watch forever. The month of October is here. If you're headed to Charlotte Motor Speedway this weekend, be sure to stop by and see my friends at the Daily Downforce tent in the Verel Mobile Village and Campground to participate in Track or Treat. They'll be giving away some special groovy hollow-themed goodie bags with candy and other fun stuff inside, so be sure to stop by and say hello if you're out at the racetrack this weekend. We have so much to get to today. We'll start with Carson Hocevar. Carson Hocevar was fined $50,000 this week by NASCAR for an incident that took place Sunday at Kansas Speedway. NASCAR says that after Hocevar spun out and came to a stop and safety workers were at his car, he revved and spun his tires to try and rejoin the field. I went back and watched the HBO Max in-car camera, and this clip that's been shared around is maybe the moment NASCAR took issue with. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of hear the engine rev, then, Carson comes over the radio, kind of confused. Wait, what are they doing? As the tow truck is pulling out in front of his car. I don't know. The onboard camera doesn't paint much of a picture there. I wish we had a different angle, because what I could see didn't seem like a huge deal. Not a $50,000 deal, at least. This feels kind of like how in the NBA, Draymond Green will get called for so many technical fouls. Most of them he deserves, but sometimes it's like because of his reputation, the refs have him on a short leash. Anyone who watches basketball, you probably have a player on your team that's the enforcer that refs keep a closer eye on because they have history. Hocevar was penalized last year at Nashville for hooking Harrison Burton under caution. In his Truck Series days, he would intentionally spin to bring out yellows. He got away with a right rear hook of Colby Howard. So this penalty may seem ticky-tack, but it's probably NASCAR's way of keeping Carson on that short leash, trying to deliver a message. I'm not a big fan of makeup calls in other sports, and that's kind of what this looks like, at least based on the onboard camera view. If there's a third-person view out there, might paint a much bigger picture, but needless to say, I was surprised to see Carson Hocevar's name on the penalty report this week. I believe he now is up to $150,000 worth of fines in his first year and a half of Cup Series racing. Not exactly the kind of hot start any young driver should be aiming for. Moving on, NASCAR Vice President of Competition Elton Sawyer confirmed yesterday that Chevrolet will have a new NASCAR Cup Series body in 2026. When asked, he said, quote, "We started working with the folks there at GM probably over a year or so ago now. Then they started submitting the body parts, and then they go to a wind tunnel test where all the OEMs are there to watch how that test unfolds at the wind tunnel. So all the boxes have been checked, and we're looking forward to seeing the new Chevrolet when we get to Daytona in 2026. We knew Chevy was working on something, but it's nice to know from NASCAR that it's confirmed, all the approval boxes have been checked, and Chevrolet will debut a new stock car body early next year." Big moment, because Chevrolet has run a version of the Camaro in the NASCAR Cup Series since 2018. Now, they made some modifications to it a few years back, namely the front nose. If I recall, they kind of flattened it a little bit. But besides that, there have not been many dramatic changes to the Chevy Camaro body since then. Now, General Motors discontinued the street Chevy Camaro last year, leaving questions as to what their next NASCAR model would be. Right now, it's anyone's guess. Chevrolet does not have a traditional sedan on the market. They're not making Camaros anymore. I think they stopped making Malibus last year sometime as well. They could stick with a Camaro-looking body like they have now. They could, try to turn it into like a Corvette. Might look as goofy as the Supra does in the Xfinity series, though. Maybe they go in a completely different direction. Who knows? I feel like the Camaro, even though it's no longer in production, is still so recognizable, and you put the big Chevy bow tie logo on the front. From a branding perspective, I still think that would be strong. I'm more interested to see what this will mean for Chevrolet from a competitive standpoint. In the next gen era, the last 4 years now, Both Ford and Toyota have debuted new body styles. Start of 2024, we saw the new Camry, the new Ford Mustang Dark Horse. Chevy has essentially run the same Camaro body all 4 years. They're due for an upgrade. This is their chance to reset and bring the newest, bestest stuff they can to the racetrack. Chevy hasn't fallen off in recent years, although if you look at Chevrolet Cup Series wins by season, they've gone down a teeny tiny bit every year since the next gen was introduced. They might have had an advantage that first year. They've definitely lost some of that advantage, the data would suggest. I mean, Ford with Team Penske has won every Cup Series championship since the next gen was introduced. So maybe that's what Chevy's going to do. Their new body is going to feature those same kind of pointy, flared front fenders like the Dark Horse. Who knows? But your guess is as good as mine. But we now know for a fact that Chevy will have a new body starting in 2026. Speaking of needing a reset, Richard Childress Racing just announced that crew chief Randall Burnett is out, effective immediately. Kyle Busch will have a new crew chief this weekend at Charlotte. RCR said in a statement, quote, "With RCR and Randall Burnett parting ways at the end of the season, RCR has decided Andy Street will step in as crew chief of the number 8 team with driver Kyle Busch, effective this weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Burnett will continue contributing in a support role with the organization through the end of the season. Additional info regarding future competition roles will be shared at a later date." Yes, so as we've discussed last week, Trackhouse announced that Randall Burnett will be joining their team to work with rookie driver Connor Zilic. So I'm not surprised at all that Richard Childress Racing would make this move preemptively. The real question, though, is Andy Street. Will this simply be a 5-race interim move, or will this be an interim role that becomes permanent next year? Man, I should have mentioned Andy Street in my video last week where I discussed potential in-house crew chief candidates. He spent the last few years in the Xfinity Series winning a decent number of races with Austin Hill. This year, he's been more of a part-time Cup crew chief, doing the number 33 car whenever they run. Hopefully, the 8 team is able to finish strong these final 5 weeks. Like I said last week, the 8 team needs a spark. I think a spark is most likely to come from outside the organization, but don't expect the boss man, Richard Childress, to go anywhere anytime soon. A few social media posts this week, seemingly from random accounts, suggested that Richard Childress was about to announce his retirement. I saw some of these posts, but I didn't think these rumors had that much traction. Apparently, Richard Childress Racing saw them, however, and the official RCR Twitter account responded. This rumor is not accurate. Richard Childress is not planning to retire following the end of this season. There you go. I mean, maybe their social team is just trying to quiet down these rumors so that they can announce them on their own terms. But if we just take them at their word, it sounds like 80-year-old Richard Childress is still going to be involved with the team going forward. I respect so much of what Richard Childress has been able to build throughout his career. Scrappy team decades ago rose to prominence, namely with Dale Earnhardt. It's a great story. Richard Childress built an incredible race team, but now is the time for big changes. And I'm not sure Richard Childress is willing to do that. Why? Because his own driver and grandson, Austin Dillon, essentially said as much a few weeks ago after his Richmond win. Dillon said, quote, "Richard is very loyal, to a fault almost. He really takes great care of those that are around him. We just push him to try and make change at some point in time. He usually has a way about it where you tell him one thing and he's going to get upset about it. Then 2 weeks later, he'll turn around. What do you think about this? That's a great idea, man." I mean, Richard Childress, he's old school. Again, I have so much respect for what he has built, but the game has changed. The game has changed so much in a fairly short amount of time. I don't know. From the outside looking in, look at the results. It doesn't seem like RCR has been able to keep up. See, this is why I always compare Richard Childress Racing to the Dallas Cowboys. Both legendary teams, still wildly popular, but neither have had much success since the 90s. Both are family run, both have an owner who insists on being heavily involved, like Jerry Jones is still the general manager. Richard Childress is on the headset during the race. And both fan bases are begging these owners to take a back seat. Brad Keselowski recently talked about the culture at Roush before he got there. Sounded like a difficult place to work. Jack was hard-nosed, somewhat stubborn, and their on-track performance had slipped quite a bit. The industry changes, Keselowski comes in a little younger, fresh perspective, and they've turned things around pretty quickly. I feel like Austin Dillon could be the Brad Keselowski for Richard Childress Racing, if Richard would just let go of some of the reins. I'm not sure when or if he ever will, but I think he's going to have to if Richard Childress Racing is to make the sweeping changes I think they need to make. RCR fans, Kyle Busch fans, let me know if you agree or disagree down in the comment section below. Kyle Busch will have a new crew chief this week. He could have a completely different crew chief next year. We'll see how this Andy Street trial run plays out the next few weeks. Be sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. Also hit that subscribe button, especially if you're new, if you love all things NASCAR, want to stay up to date on the latest races, race reactions, news, and more. Huge thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. Plenty more content to come this week, including tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be streaming live with the Iceberg, Danny B. Jeff Babiano will be our very special guest. We'll talk about Kansas. We'll talk about the new NASCAR 25 video game about to come out. We'll recap the latest news, preview the Roval, and so much more. Thanks for watching, folks. I'll talk to you again real soon.